There are exactly 7 statements that will make a narcissist step back from you as if you have just held up a sacred symbol to a dark force. The real strength of these statements is not that they are cruel or insulting, but that they are grounded in truth. And more than anything else, narcissists are deeply frightened of the truth. Let's be completely honest about something most people fail badly when they try to confront a narcissist. Why does this happen? Because they walk directly into a conflict designed by the narcissist while using approaches that not only fail but actually make the narcissist stronger. You bring your emotions, your desire for fairness, your wish for peace and understanding to the conversation. To a narcissist, those are not tools for connection. They are weaknesses waiting to be exploited. It is like trying to reason calmly with a violent storm. The effort becomes pointless. The central mistake is simple. You believe you are involved in a normal discussion when in reality you are standing in the middle of a psychological battlefield. The narcissist constructs an altered version of reality, a twisted story where they are the heroic and wronged center of the universe while you become the flawed, foolish, and permanently obligated supporting character. Every emotional reaction you display, your anger, your sadness, your desperate pleading, is actually you agreeing to play inside their version of the map. You unknowingly confirm their distorted reality by remaining within its limits, and on that ground, they will almost always win. The major shift in power occurs the moment you stop reacting emotionally and begin responding intentionally. An emotional reaction is sudden and uncontrolled, like a burst of energy, a shout, a quick outburst. A strategic response, on the other hand, is quiet, deliberate, and steady. It is the conscious choice to throw their false map away and stand firmly on what you know is real. This is where language becomes your most powerful instrument, not as a weapon to strike them, but as building material to construct a structure of reality so strong that their illusions cannot break it. To understand why this works, you must look deeper and recognize what actually fuels narcissism. What is a narcissist truly afraid of beneath the grand performances and endless self-praise? It is not your anger, and it is not your logical arguments. What they fear most is exposure. Their entire personality is a defense system, carefully built piece by piece around a core of deep inadequacy and shame. It is a glittering fortress designed to hide a wounded, insecure inner self. This observation is not meant to excuse their behavior, but it is essential for understanding the strategy. Their greatest fear is that someone will notice the cracks in that fortress wall, that someone will catch a glimpse of the painful reality they try so hard to hide. They live in constant fear of being genuinely seen. That is why certain words spoken calmly and clearly without hostility act like psychological triggers. These words do not attack the fortress, they simply illuminate it. They hold up a mirror, and in that mirror, the narcissist is forced to see not the perfect godlike image they believe in, but the faint outline of the fraud they secretly fear they might be. This is the deepest layer of shame psychology. They are not afraid you will harm them. They are afraid you will recognize them for what they truly are, and that recognition alone will shatter the illusion they depend on for survival. Think about this carefully for a moment. Pause and reflect. Have you ever said something simple to a difficult person that suddenly made them back away, even though you did not fully understand why it worked? Maybe you were exhausted from arguing and spoke directly and calmly, and suddenly the chaos ended. There is a reason for this, a deep psychological principle. Think about those moments in your life. What exactly did you say? how did you say it, and what happened next. You may have discovered this principle without realizing it. This leads us to the concept of verbal boundaries. Setting a boundary through language is not aggression. Aggression attempts to dominate or hurt someone else. Assertive truth-telling, which is what we are discussing, is an act of self-control. It is the refusal to allow another person to define your reality. Imagine a line marking your property. Aggression would mean stepping into someone else's space. A boundary means standing on your own ground and calmly stating you are not allowed to cross this line. The words themselves are only one part of the solution. Your tone and delivery give those words their strength. A boundary shouted in anger is not a boundary, it is simply an invitation to fight, and it signals you are still operating on emotional terrain where the narcissist thrives. But a boundary spoken with calm, steady certainty, like a basic mathematical truth, becomes something their mind struggles to handle. It breaks the usual pattern of interaction. Your quiet confidence becomes a mirror reflecting their disorder, and it is a reflection they cannot tolerate. When you learn to do this, something powerful begins to change. It is not only about dealing with a difficult relationship, it becomes a transformation within yourself. The respect you start receiving from others, including the narcissist, does not come because they suddenly decide to give it. It appears naturally as a result of your own self-respect. You stop being a piece in their game because you refuse to keep playing. You begin moving from being a character in their story to becoming the author of your own life. And that is where real strength begins. Here is a thought that might feel uncomfortable. Narcissists do not disrespect you because you are weak. They disrespect you because they sense you possess something they desperately want, but can never truly hold authentic self-worth, and that terrifies them. The narcissist does not choose targets randomly. Their behavior is more like a hunting strategy developed over years of searching for what they lack. Imagine predators observing a group of animals. They do not attack blindly. They watch carefully, testing and studying. Surprisingly, they are often drawn not to the weakest individuals, but to the strongest ones because that is where the greatest reward exists. What qualities make you so appealing to a manipulator? First, your empathy, your ability to understand and care for others, and to give people the benefit of the doubt. This is something the narcissist does not truly experience, yet they know how to use it. They see your empathy not as strength, but as an open doorway. Second, your competence. You are capable, disciplined, and able to achieve results. This competence becomes a resource they want to control and claim as their own to support their illusion of importance. Third, your integrity, your commitment to honesty, fairness, and doing what is right. Because you are sincere, you assume others are sincere as well. Because you act with conscience, you struggle to imagine someone who acts without one. Ironically, your strengths become vulnerabilities. The very light you carry attracts the darkness toward you. The narcissist sees your authentic ability to care and succeed, and it creates both envy and a desire to destroy. They want to consume that light, and if they cannot, they want to extinguish it so it no longer reminds them of their empty core. Once a target is selected, the testing begins, but these tests are subtle. They may appear as small backhanded compliments, forgotten promises, or jokes at your expense delivered lightly enough that objecting makes you appear overly sensitive. Each moment is a small experiment. The narcissist is silently asking, "Will you tolerate this? Can I get away with it?" Your reaction provides the answer. If you laugh it off, excuse their behavior, or ignore it to maintain peace, you have just revealed your boundaries. With that information, they slowly increase the violation. What started as a small joke becomes open humiliation. A forgotten promise becomes a broken agreement. This gradual escalation is the difference between normal disagreement and narcissistic disrespect. In healthy relationships, conflict occurs and is resolved together. With a narcissist, it becomes a campaign designed to slowly erode your standards until you find yourself accepting treatment you once promised you would never tolerate. It begins with a small offense that you dismiss because you do not want to create conflict. That small violation then becomes the new normal, and the next one becomes slightly worse, and the next worse still. Over time, the human mind adapts, and constant disrespect begins to feel ordinary. You start walking carefully, managing their moods, and forgetting what basic respect even felt like. The abnormal becomes normal. Good, caring people struggle to recognize this pattern because their natural responses work against them. Your desire for harmony and your hope that others mean well cause you to excuse behavior that should never be accepted. You project your own decency onto them and tell yourself they must not have meant it that way, or they are just having a bad day. Slowly, doubt grows inside you, and you begin questioning your own perception, wondering if you are too sensitive or overreacting. This is the narcissist's greatest trick, convincing you the problem is not their behavior, but your response. Eventually, a moment arrives when the pattern becomes impossible to ignore. One clear act of disrespect breaks through the confusion, and you suddenly see everything clearly. At that moment, change begins, and it begins with you. What follows are not insults or attacks, but precise statements of truth. When you use them, you are not trying to harm anyone. You are simply establishing reality. And for a narcissist, reality is the most dangerous force of all. The first statement is, I see what you are doing. Few words frighten a manipulator more because their entire strategy relies on pretending innocence. They thrive in confusion and subtle hostility that can always be denied. This phrase cuts through that fog instantly. It communicates that you are aware of the manipulation without needing to explain it. The game is exposed and their disguise is gone. The second statement is, that is not my responsibility. Narcissists constantly shift blame and burdens onto others. By calmly returning that responsibility, you create a clear boundary where you own your actions and they must own theirs. The third statement is, I will not be spoken to that way. This is not a request, but a rule establishing a minimum standard of respect. Spoken calmly, it ends the violation immediately. The fourth statement is, your feelings about this are not my problem. Narcissists often use emotional displays to control others, but this phrase removes that control and returns emotional responsibility back to them. The fifth statement is, I do not need to justify myself to you. Endless explanations only give them material to twist and attack, so refusing to over-explain restores your authority over your own decisions. The sixth statement is, this conversation is over, which allows you to exit a circular argument designed only to exhaust and confuse you. The seventh and most powerful statement is, I am not interested in your opinion of me, which removes the very foundation of their control because their power depends on your need for their approval. These statements are effective not because they are cruel, but because they destroy the illusion the narcissist depends upon. Their identity is built around a false self, a grand persona that requires constant outside validation to survive. Without admiration, the illusion begins to collapse. When you speak calmly and refuse to provide that validation, you expose the emptiness behind the mask. Beneath the grand image lies a core of deep shame and fear. Every boundary you set forces them closer to confronting that reality, and that is something they cannot tolerate. Clear language becomes the antidote to the confusion they create. When you refuse to participate in their games, their tactics lose power. Your calmness reflects their chaos back to them like a mirror, and for a brief moment, they are forced to see themselves clearly. That reflection is something they cannot endure, and that is why simple, calm statements of truth can disarm them more effectively than any argument ever could.